Today, July 16th in 2022, in the year of our Lord, we are here at Trinity site praying that some good will be brought out of the evil that happened here on July 16th in 1945. And it continues to flow out from what happened here on July 16th, 1945. That is, the first atomic bomb was exploded directly behind me. It was a plutonium bomb, same type that was dropped on Nagasaki. The Hiroshima bomb was a uranium bomb. Work on the bomb started in 1942. A lot of very intelligent men got together and thought that this kind of instrument of destruction could in fact be created. And so they formed a group. The group was ultimately called the Manhattan Project. And they gradually worked at creating what theoretically seemed possible in terms of modern physics. An instrument of unimagined power to destroy human beings and everything once exploded. And the work went on this, first in underground laboratories in Chicago and New York, and later in places like in Tennessee and up in Washington, and finally right here in New Mexico in Los Alamos. An entire village, if you will, an entire city, big village, was created in Los Alamos, which no one knew about, which totally dedicated to making this instrument of mass destruction. Unheard of mass destruction. And so the people there worked at it. They worked at it continuously 7 days a week until on July 16, 1945, they came here, just as you see it behind me. A desert place in New Mexico, and they set up the instrumentality, highly sophisticated, beyond my knowledge, beyond the knowledge of most people who are hearing me, today even. They set up an instrument of human destruction that required the knowledge of everything that's gone on in human history, from Pythagoras and Newton and Einstein and Kepler and Boyle, and all those people that made these great contributions over the millennia in terms of knowledge. All that knowledge was brought together by these few thousand human beings in the village up in Los Alamos, and they brought it together to make an instrument of mass human destruction. So when they came here on July 16th of 1945, right at this very spot, right as you're looking behind me, it was the culmination of an incredibly organized, mutual effort by many hundreds and thousands of human beings to finance this, to organize it, to think it through, to produce it. They detonated the first atomic bomb. Not even they knew whether it was going to work or not. And they didn't even know how far it would destroy. In fact, one of the scientists, Enrico Fermi, thought that it was possible that the chain reaction from it could destroy the whole world. They just didn't know, but they knew if it worked, it had an enormous power of destruction. It did work. It worked beyond the best of anything they could imagine. It worked beautifully. It was a scientific breakthrough. It was a masterpiece. It was a grand success, scientifically. And it was only a few weeks later, on August 6th and August 9th, that the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing instantly, between the two cities, over 100,000 people. And of course, in the long haul, killing hundreds of thousands, and the destruction of it, the disease and so forth, goes out over the world to this day, starting in Japan, but also here too. The point is, of course, that the atomic bomb, like any weapon of human destruction, does not just come into existence out of thin air. It takes human beings, many, 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 sometimes hundreds, sometimes thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, cooperating with each other to bring the abstract concept to concrete reality. And that was done with the atomic bomb, as it was done with every major weapon we can think of. And so we have it, and it went on, and it destroyed, continues to destroy, not just in its detonations that have gone on that have gone on since 1945, but in the cauldron of diseases and sickness and destruction of the earth and its atmosphere and its microcosm, its macrocosm, in worlds that we don't even know that exist, destroying them and having an effect on human life today and tomorrow, right to this moment. All documented, all there to see, all there to ponder what in the name of heavens is going on. That people do not see how terrible the evil is of human destruction, of violence, or even of an atomic bomb. You know, before we can deal with the problem of the atomic bomb, which is the problem of violence, it's the problem of violence. A person is no more dead when he's hit by an atomic bomb than when he's hit by a flamethrower, burning his face and his body to pieces, or a bullet going through his heart. He's dead. The problem that we face with violence so often is seeing what it actually is, and naming it that. We name this atomic bomb here, is all the newspapers, when it's finally made public after August 6th of 1945, a great scientific achievement, a great military achievement, a great political achievement. A bomb. Great instrument of destruction even. Put us in the lead in terms of superpowers. The atomic bomb, when we look at it and name it from what it actually in fact is evil. It was created by the spirit of Satan. It's the creation of the power of hell. The atomic bomb is evil. Evil brought into the human situation. As is every weapon that human beings create to kill people. They are the product of the reign of Satan. For violence is of the reign of Satan, says Jesus. They are all products of the reign of Satan. Satan, evil, hell, the heinous. That's what the atomic bomb that was exploded here and today receives so much visibility on the internet and all kinds of places, movies and documentaries. But in all the movies and documentaries and internet projects I have seen, not one of them says, that's evil. That's evil. Evil. It is the spirit of evil, the spirit of hell. And only the spirit of hell, only the spirit of Satan that creates weapons, that uses weapons, or that supports weapons. Because violence is of the reign of Satan, says Jesus. It's not of God's reign. It's not of the reign of the kingdom of God. It's of the reign of Satan. The atomic bomb may be a particularly savage example, but the people that made it were every bit as willing to destroy human beings with what they were making as Cain was when he picked up the rock to beat Abel to death. The atomic bomb is the rock made large, and it was Satan that moved Cain, and it was Satan that moved the people that made this. It's a euphemism we use very, commonly, and we call, well, this was in the middle of the Second World War, World War II. The Second World War was not a world war at its roots. It was evil. It was the manifestation of hell on earth. When General Tecumseh Sherman said, back in the Civil War, war is hell, he meant that as just the destruction that goes on the battlefield is so terrible. And he analogized it to hell, which is the worst place he could think of. But when I say the Second World War was evil, I mean it was participation in the reality of hell. I'm not using it as an analogy. I'm using it as an actual statement literally. That it was the product of the power of hell, period. And it made no difference. It makes no difference whether it was the Russians, the English, the Germans, the Japanese, the Americans, whatever the case may be, who were using the power of hell, they were all using the power of hell. They were all using the satanic against each other. That is the root. That is what we have to look at when we look at the problem of violence in the world. That we beat down a country with more of the power of evil than they had to use against us. What does that mean? What's that in life? What does that mean for a Christian? I've been trying to raise the issue that Jesus of the Gospels, Jesus in the gospel teaches a way of nonviolent love of friends and enemies, a way of loving all people at all times under all circumstances, as the will of the Father, the will of God for all people. He has a methodology for doing this. He begins by teaching it and living it. Because he doesn't just teach that nonviolent love of friends and enemies in his words, he lives it right up into his death on the cross by crucifixion, loving his enemies. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So for over 50 years, I've been trying to raise this issue with the churches of Christianity, all of them, Catholic, Protestant, and Orthodox. And for the most part, it's been met like water off a duck's back. Don't bother me with it. Yeah, I know that stuff. That's unrealistic. Don't tell me about that. I'm a Catholic, and I have just war theory. We're a Catholic church. You name it. I've heard everything. Not one excuse holds water if you ask the person, but is that what Jesus would do? Meaning you ask him, is that loving as Jesus loves? But my point is, right now, is that, and I like to just leave this with you for today. Leave this with you for today in this planetary day, really. A day that all over the world is known because it has the first time in the history of the world, right here, right behind me, is where something happened that never happened. In the tens of thousands or whatever it is years that Homo sapiens has lived on this earth. The atom bomb was created. And this day is known, and its effect has been planetary, we know it now. Thousands of these bombs have been exploded and affected everyone's lives in ways we don't even imagine, can't even imagine. But this is what I'd like to leave with you today. In thinking about, yes, the atomic bomb, but the atomic bomb is the symbol, or the reality and the symbol of the reality that violence is of the reign of Satan. Whether it's communist, capitalist, Democrat, Republican, socialist, anarchist, it doesn't make any difference. Whether it's the atomic bomb or whether it's someone beating up someone on the street or some group trashing in other people's lives. When you intend to go out and hurt someone, it's of the reign of Satan. So I'd like to leave you with this. Jesus says in the Gospels, and everyone understands it. Everyone understands what he's saying. He says quite explicitly, and he says it in terms of his judgment. Matthew 25, he says, whatever you do to the least, you do to me. Whatever you do to the least, you do to me. That means that the use of violence, the use of homicidal violence, makes the person using it a Christ killer. Whatever you do to the least, you do to me. I ask you, what manner of Christian, what manner of church, institutional church, What manner of church leader would justify, would support, would condone the killing of Christ? Let me just carry this one step further. What kind of church? What kind of Christian? What kind of church leader would justify, support, and teach every newly baptized Christian, whether it be a child or an adult, from the day of his baptism or her baptism, that they could legitimately, morally, properly be following Jesus and killing Christ? What kind of a Christian? What kind of a church, institutional church? What kind of church leaders would do such a thing? When Paul, before he converted to Jesus Christ, was Saul, or in Hebrew, Saul, and he was violently opposed to the Christians and to Jesus. And he was on his way from Jerusalem to Damascus in order to kill, maim, imprison Jews who would become followers of Jesus. And as you know the story, as he was on his way to Damascus, a light overwhelmed him. He was knocked to the ground. And he heard a voice. And the voice said, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" Paul responded, "Who are you, Lord?" The voice said, "I am Jesus, whom you were persecuting." He did not say, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting my people, my disciples, my followers?" He said, Jesus said, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" Whatever you do to the least, you do to me, says Jesus. Think about that.